It's TKX rebuild time again. I was able to get a hold of some first gears to fix this one and also the one that's over in the car right now, but that will become later. So I'm walking you guys through the rebuild on this, and it's a very simple process. I gotta say, taking this TKX transmission apart is not that tough. Let's get into it. If this is your first time doing a TKX rebuild or anything with it, I highly suggest you grab this Tremec TKX service manual. It's got the full rebuild process in it. On my part shelf over here, I've got, let's see, I've got first gear, 2 of them. And depending on the transmission that you have, the first gear is going to be a little bit different. So make sure that you get the right one for your transmission and the gear ratio. To do that, I would call, I went through Silver Sport Transmission, but you can also call Tremec directly. I know that they are not releasing very many parts on these, so it was really hard to get my hands on these. I've got 2 first gears, and then I've got a couple more coming. If you are curious on how I broke mine, I've got a bunch of videos on that. Go back and look at my TKX transmission videos. You'll see how this happened. I've already taken apart a couple of TKXs, and the thing that I like to do with these is get a 5-gallon bucket and cut a hole in the lid. It just works good as a stand, but also you can drain your fluid in there. So the first thing I did is I got mine up on a bucket and I got the fluid drained out, and you can see we've got some parts of first gear in there. Very nice. Your first step is going to be to get this tail shaft housing out, and to do that, there's these bolts around the outside, and also you've got to take this cover plate off, and there's a few pins in here you've got to knock off for the shift. I can't remember what they're called, but I'll show you in a second here. So we're going to get this cover off with these 4 star bits. I'm using a, what size is that? Looks like a T30. Whoa, I got oil all over my hands. Okay, so you get to this point, you get the cover off here. There's just those 4 bolts on the outside, and then there's these 3 pins right here. And you can tell, once you get the pin far enough back, you're just gonna pound them not all the way out the back, but you see how this one, I've got the pin knocked in a little bit, but it's still tight. See how that one you can tell is loose? That's how you know when you're off there. So just gonna knock it a little bit. Keep checking it. Don't have enough hands to hold it for you, but you get the idea. I accidentally pushed back too far. Oh well. These ones are loose, ready to go. So now I've got all 4 of these, all of these holding the tail shaft housing on. Then you'll be able to just pull the tail shaft housing all the way up. After you get your case off, you can see you're in this position. The next thing that's got to come off is this shift selector here, and also the 5th gear cluster. In order to do that though, you need this nut to not spin when you're trying to take it off. So what you'll want to do is take 2 of these shift selectors and pull up on them. I usually do the outside ones, and you pull them up. You might have to spin your shaft just a little bit, but once you get both of them up into gear, you can see it's not going to go anywhere. Then you'll be able to take that nut off, and it's not going to cause you any troubles. So the next thing, now that we've got both of these pulled up, we've got this nut that we've got to take off of here. So I got this off now. This top gear, this is on there really snug, so you just got to work it up. It takes a little bit of time. Just be patient with it. It'll come up eventually. Just be careful. Don't pry on the actual teeth. I always use this edge of this to pry this gear up. So just spin it around and slowly just pry up on this as you spin it around. After you get that out of the way, then this gear will just lift right up off of here. Whoop! Crap. My idler, my needle bearings came right out. That you can leave on there, not a big deal. And then we're just going to take this as an assembly and set it aside for our 5th gear assembly. Once you get to this point, there's a few other things you've got to do. There's this intermediate plate right here. There's a bolt right there. There's another one over there. And then this intermediate plate will come off. But you've got to get this little blocking plate out of the way. And there's a couple of little pieces right in there. Those have to come out also. And then you can get that bolt out, and the case will come off. And all the carnage. This is probably the trickiest part in my opinion, and I only say that because now you've got to get the linkage out of here. So this plate has to come out. You can see right down there, this Allen bolt is what's holding that in there. So we're gonna have to get this piece out, and then we'll be able to slide all of these out together. Yeah. The tricky part is getting them all back in there together. So what I would do if I were you is take a picture of how this is. That way you know how to line all of these back up once you get them in. So we took the bolt on the side here loose, and then we were able to rotate this counter shaft for reverse, counterclockwise, and pull it out. And then this, we were able to take out. This was down in here. We were able to snake this guy out and take it out. And the next thing we've got to do is remove these two shift rail detent bolts. So those are what hold these shift rails in place right here. You can see they don't move very much. So we're going to remove those two. That'll take the pins out so we can pull this rail right here out with this main shaft, and that's what we're after. There is a spring and I believe a pin in there too we got to take out with the bolt. Just ran into a less than ideal situation with my trans. The cluster shaft on mine is broken. Should be that guy there. Missing a couple of teeth on it. That sucks. So this is first gear, and the gear on the counter shaft is broken also. That's a bummer. I was going to take this all apart and see about, getting it all fixed up, but it was hard enough to get the parts I have without waiting forever. I waited almost 8 months to get just the first gear assemblies. I can only imagine how much an entire cluster shaft will be. I've got one more trans, and I think what I'm going to try to do is see if I can make one good one between the two of them that I have. Definitely a bummer. Not sure how we're going to get aside from this, but essentially from here, there's not a whole lot more. You've got to remove this shaft here along with this, and then the rest comes out afterwards. And then assembly is the reverse of this. Taking this shaft, or all the gears off this shaft, is possible. This one, not. I see that there's a mark there that looks like this gear is right here. So I'm wondering if maybe it's pressed onto that shaft. I would imagine that if it is, there would be some sort of a dowel pin locating it, but the manual doesn't say anything about replacing the gear on the counter shaft. There's nothing in there that even shows taking this apart, so I don't know if it does. So I don't know if I even want to go down that road, because it's just going to be a struggle, but we'll see. I'm going to at least get this pulled out of here, see if there's anything else on the main shaft that's screwed up. I'll try to press all the gears off and at least replace first and get that ready, but this is going to be a showstopper. So if I was going to rebuild this transmission, I would start by taking all of these gears off one at a time up here until I get to my first gear assembly, which is this guy here. Then I would replace it with my new one, and then we would put it all back together. But seeing as my counter shaft is broken, I'm going to have to figure out this issue before I even mess with this. If I don't have a counter shaft, then I'm just probably going to abort mission for now and try to figure out what the hell to do from here. But I've got my other transmission in the car I'm going to take out right now. We're going to try to take the tail shaft housing off of it along with the mid plate, and we're going to see what the counter shaft in that one looks like, because that one's broken too. And then after we get that done, we'll kind of see how it looks. But I'm pretty sure the counter shaft in the other one is broken too. Pretty darn sure. Well, it's kind of a bummer, but counter shafts in both transmissions are pretty much screwed. So I'm going to have to see if I can get a counter shaft before I can rebuild anything. And it's probably going to be a wait. So I'm gonna examine some other options. But you guys get the process. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. It's not a terribly tough transmission to rebuild. The process of getting all the gears off. If you have any questions, either ask in the comments or look in the manual. But it's a pretty easy deal. You've got to have a bearing separator, and you got to pull them off and use a press. So if you don't have a press or a gear puller, it might make it tough on you. But at any rate, thanks for watching. Drive fast, take chances. See you soon.